Today we are going to read The Wolf. Now, what genre do you think this is? That's right, it's a poem. What clues did you use or characteristics did you use to decide that it was a poem? That's right, it has stanzas, which is a key characteristic of many poems. Now, I'm going to read this poem twice. The first time, I want you to be listening for my fluent reading. And our goal today while reading is to make predictions and inferences, so keep that in the back of your mind while you're listening this time. Now, like I said, listen for my fluent reading. The Wolf. When the pale moon hides and the wild wind wails, and over the treetops the nighthawk sails, the gray wolf sits on the world's far rim and howls, and it seems to comfort him. The wolf is a lonely soul, you see, no beast in the wood, nor bird in the tree, but shuns his path. In the windy gloom they give him plenty and plenty of room. So he sits with his long lean face to the sky, watching the ragged clouds go by, there in the night, alone, apart, singing the song of his lone wild heart. Far away on the world's dark rim, he howls, and it seems to comfort him. Now, what did you notice about my fluent reading? Good, I used expression or intonation while I read. What else? Exactly, I did not read too fast or too slow. The rate that I read the poem made it easier for you to hear and understand. I paused between words and phrases to add a little character to the poem. What is another characteristic I used to practice fluent reading? Yes, I used the words correctly and accurately. Another way I can say that is that I had automatic decoding of words while I read. Give me an Air 5 if you agree that I used fluent reading today. Awesome. Now listen more specifically as I read the poem another time to how I predict and infer while I am reading, and how, as a reader, I am looking out for figurative language the author uses to make the poem more interesting. Now, alright, the poem is called The Wolf. So I'm already going to make a prediction that it's most likely going to be describing a wolf and maybe what wolves do. Maybe it's also going to be about a specific wolf because it's called The Wolf. I also know that wolves are out at night and that they howl, so maybe the author will talk about that as well. So, The Wolf. When the pale moon hides and the wild wind wails. Now, here the author is setting the scene for me, so I'm going to infer that it is nighttime because I know that the moon is out at night. Wait, wild wind wails. That is an alliteration. And also, it's a personification. Wailing means to cry loudly, so the author is saying that the wind is crying loudly, and I know that the wind doesn't literally cry, so that's definitely a personification. And just from that first line, I am also going to infer that it is cold outside based on the vocabulary that the author is using, such as wild and wind and wailing. And, you know, based off of my personal experience, I know when the wind is wailing and wild that it's most likely probably cold outside. And over the treetops, the nighthawk sails. Okay, here again, the nighthawk. So its name is telling me that it's a hawk that is out at night, so maybe it's hunting at nighttime. So I'm going to go ahead and say that my inference that it was nighttime is correct. The gray wolf sits on the world's far rim and howls, and it seems to comfort him. World's far rim. I'm not really sure what that is, but I'm going to make a prediction that it's high up in the air. If the rim is, he's relating the rim to the world, which is pretty big, but I'm going to read on and maybe I will be able to find out if my prediction is right. So, and howls, and it seems to comfort him. So the wolf is howling, maybe at the pale moon that's out. The author talked about that in the first line when the pale moon hides. But this line is also saying that the howling comforts him. So I'm going to predict that the wolf is sad about something because he needs to be comforted for some reason. The wolf is a lonely soul, you see. Oh yes, he's definitely sad if he's lonely. No beast in the wood, nor bird in the tree, but shuns his path in the windy gloom. shuns. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that so we can go back and look at that when I'm done reading. But, I mean, I could look for clues in that same line, and maybe it'll tell me, but shuns his path. The line before it says, no beast in the wood, nor bird in the tree, but shuns his path. So there's no one around, so maybe shun means to, like, keep away from him. Let's find out. They give him plenty and plenty of room. So plenty of room, so shun definitely means, you know, to stay away from. I can see them not wanting to be around him. If he's a wolf, maybe he'll eat them. So he sits with his long, lean face to the sky, watching the ragged clouds go by, there in the night, alone, apart. Oh, look at that. My prediction I made at the very beginning, when I first started reading, about how it's nighttime. Well, now the author has definitely told me that it's night out. Singing the song of his lone, wild heart. Here, the author is saying that he's singing the song of his lone, wild heart. That must mean, the singing must mean that he's howling at the moon, so the prediction I made before I started reading the poem, that wolves howl and, you know, maybe they'll talk about that, that was definitely right too. It's just how I predicted. Far away on the world's dark rim, he howls, and it seems to comfort him. Now, did you hear me make predictions and inferences? Good, now what was one inference that you heard? That's right, I inferred it was nighttime, and I did that based on the author telling me that the pale moon was out. I also took notice to an alliteration and a personification in the same line. Do you remember what that was? Wild wind wails. That's right, why is that an alliteration? Exactly, because the beginning sounds of the three words are the same. They all start with W or W. Why is this also an example of a personification? That's right. The author said that the wind is wailing, just like I said during my think aloud. Does the wind wail? Like, does the wind cry? No, it doesn't, exactly. The wind doesn't literally cry, which is why this is a personification. I also made another inference about it being cold. Did you hear that? I did this because I've experienced cold, and I've experienced the wind blowing, and my personal experience was during the winter time, which is why I said that it was probably cold outside. Now, you're going to choose out of the two poems, Flittermice or Eyes, and you are going to demonstrate good fluency and reading comprehension, and what's the skill that we're doing? Good, predicting and inferencing. So I want to see you marking your paper with vocab words that you don't understand, and I also want to see you making predictions and inferences while you read.